Hello everybody and welcome to the D.G.S.R Sim Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione League race at Zandvoort. This is the second race weekend in the series, and the race weekend has the following structure. The racers get a practice session of 20 minutes, followed by qualifying of 15 minutes, and then the first race for 20 minutes. Then we have a qualifying session of 10 minutes and a second race of 30 minutes. We're going to start today with the first race, and here is the grid. In P1, we have Morris, followed by Barros in P2. On the second row, we have Long and Stevens. In P5, McElliott and P6, Joswick. Pichon in P7 and Sanchez in P8. Raiola and Hale in P10. Dewings and Villadesen in P11 and P12. Whalley and Attrell. Mew and Durand. In P17, we have Engel and P18, D.G.S.R, P19 Norton, P20 Ridge, Hillier and Oberlarayon in P21 and P22, and finally Speaking Leash in P23. Okay, you joined me at the beginning of race 1 then, just setting off Zandvoort in the last two corners before the start-finish straight. So the racers right now are going to be trying to warm up their tyres and their brakes as best as they can. Morris here then keeping at the front, keeping the pack nice and bunched behind him. He's going to be looking for a good start to get in front of Barros and Long. Yeah, he slowed right down here so he can get a good run on the straight. Alright then, so 5 green lights and we're away. Morris gets a pretty good start by the looks of it. Barros, a little bit of a touch between Long and Joswick. Drop back the pack as we go around turn 1. Pichon and Raiola, big bunch up in the middle there. Angle and keeping it nice and tidy through turn 2 and turn 3. Oh, and that Stevens gone off. Must have. Let's have a quick look at that. So he comes through turn 2 and turn 3. Goes a little bit wide and spins. Gets hit by McElliott. Not much McElliott can do there. And he's going to have to do a lot to get back in this race. So Morris, Barros and Long then making up a chunk of time on the rest of the pack. Morris is almost a second in front of Barros already himself. And then about a second and a bit behind Long, we have McElliott leading up quite a big pack. Going back to Joswick, Sanchez, Pichon, Hale, Raiola, Dewings, Villadesen, Attrell and Whalley then. I'll run on in the centre of this pack with Attrell for the time being. Oh, who was that went off there? Raiola had a little bit of went a little bit deep through that corner, and Whalley's going to make the most of that and send himself past in the chicane. As we're coming close to the end of lap 1 now. Let's drop back and see what's happening further down. The McLaren of Hillier there, about 1.5 seconds behind Mew. Norton, 1.5 seconds behind him. We've got quite a little pack forming at the back. Oberlarayon, D.G.S.R and Ridge. And here we go, down into lap 2. D.G.S.R has a little look around Oberlarayon. Decides against it as they go in single file through turn 1 on lap 2 now. Let's jump back to the front. Barros seems to have caught Morris a little bit. Got it within half a second. Long seems to be slipping back a little bit from the top 2. McElliott, again, still leading up that. Oh, I think he's made a little bit of a gap between himself and Joswick. Joswick heading up that quite big pack for 5th, 6th, 7th, etc. Right with Joswick for a little bit, see how this pack is doing. Pichon as we looking at making a move on Sanchez if he can. Hale quite close behind him. Fisher get up, deciding when to make the best move. Thinks about it through the chicane, but thinks better of it. And as he comes out of the chicane, oh, he's been hit. I think Hale might have hit him there. Yep. Just didn't expect him to be quite so slow coming out the corner, and he's just given him a tap. Unfortunately, that's cost Pichon quite a lot of time. Ooh, not a particularly good rejoin there, putting other people at risk. And Hale sails on through. Oh, Jennings go a little bit wide there, giving D.G.S.R the position. And we go into lap 3 then. Lap 3, we'll have a look further down the pack. Let's have a look at what's going on in the pack at the back. So we've got quite a big pack forming behind Hillier. Norton, O'Brien. Actually, D.G.S.R's quite a bit behind him. Speaking leash makes a move on turn 1, and he just bit of contact there. They've done well to keep it on the track, and they're getting through there. D.G.S.R up. Ooh, thought about going around Speaking leash there, but he thinks better of it and goes to fall another day. Right, let's go back to the middle of the pack where we got a little pack behind Attrell, I believe, or Hale, D.G.S.R, D.G.S.R, Attrell, Whalley, Raiola, Mew, I think there, and possibly even Hillier. No, Mew. Right with Attrell for a little bit. As Whalley's coming up close behind him, thinking about where to make the move. And Raiola's close up behind him as well. It's quite a good little fight. Oh, looks like D.G.S.R and D.G.S.R are having a little battle. As we come up to the chicane. And Whalley, has been hit by Raiola, and they both go, and Mew all go into the gravel. That's unfortunate. Raiola's got to come back after the chicane. Got to be careful. Whalley is a bit stuck there as the cars come round the chicane, and it's going to cost the both of them quite a long gap. Oh, who was that? Was that Hillier? Yeah, Hillier just spinning out there. Ooh, quite a big hit into the barrier there. As so a very eventful lap then, as I think Morris is heading up lap. Is this lap 4? Yes. Morris is starting lap 4. Barros close behind him. 1/8 of a second behind. He needs to catch up really if he's gonna. Big gap between Long and McElliott now, and still quite a big pack between Joswick, Sanchez, Hale, and D.G.S.R. Basically all the way back to P10 with Attrell. Quite a close running pack. Let's have a quick look at D.G.S.R and D.G.S.R then. They seem to be having a good battle in this race. Running very similar pace, and this will be swapping positions a few times. Let's jump back to the back of the field where Pichon has now running down in P18. That crash costing him quite a lot of positions in P2. Stevens is making a move up the inside, and he's going to make it stick as he forces Pichon out wide. Pichon's thinking about grabbing that position back. He's a little bit too far away to make it back in the chicane. So in front of them we have Stevens, D.G.S.R in front of behind Speaking Leash, and Raiola running behind Ridge there. O'Brien then from P22 all the way up to P13. He's having a good race, keeping it clean. And a couple of seconds in front of him we've got Norton, who again stunned in P20 and running nice and secure in P12. And ahead of him we've got Mew. D.G.S.R then forming the back of the pack from P6 to P9. That pack's very much slimmed down since the first couple of laps. Let's see how the front runners are doing. When Barros is getting up to within half a second of Morris. Long still running about a second and a bit behind them. He seems to have gained a huge amount of time in these last few laps. Pace at least seems consistent between the three of them. And Elliott's slowly slipping away from Long, it looks like. Joswick still holding up that pack. He must be doing some really good defensive work against Sanchez and Hale, because those three have been battling pretty much since the beginning of the race. Okay, as we go now into lap 6. Okay, and we'll drop back now to Mew and Norton. Rayon looks like he's getting a little bit closer to Norton. Norton goes on thinks about going on the defensive. Rayon's going to stay behind him, not enough space there to send it up the inside. Let's see who we got running now. Down to Loyola is slipping away. LZL running in P15 with Stevens up behind him. Stevens making it close, very close at the back of LZL. Maybe he's going to make a move for it on this. Let's call it a straight. I don't think you can call this a straight. This little fast section of the track. Very close behind him. He might make a move into this right-hander. I think it's better of it. He might decide to make a move, maybe into the chicane. Staying close behind him. Could be an interesting overtake if he decides to try and make it. Dalziel keeping him behind. Oh, he goes a little bit deep into that corner. Stevens is running side by side now, and Stevens looks like he's made the move, and he is just about ahead, with Pichon coming up the other inside as well, also trying to make a move on Dalziel, but doesn't quite have enough. Isn't quite close enough to make it to the chicane. Ooh, he's running close together. Dalziel's doing a good job of defending here, keeping Pichon behind. These guys are really struggling. Okay, let's drop down to Sanchez in P6 with Hale in P7 running close behind him. Ooh, Hale has a little look, decides against it. Let's run with these guys for a little while, see how they're doing. Villadessen and Denny Dewings following up behind. Again, this pack hasn't really moved a lot in the last couple of laps. They seem to be running fairly close together, but one can quite make the move. I have to say it's quite a difficult track to overtake on. There's only a few sort of places you can overtake. Oh, what's happened to Joswick? Let's have a look at that. What's happened to Joswick there? Oh, he just sort of loses the back end a little bit there. Bit of oversteer and loses the position to Sanchez. And Hale's going to have a little look as well. I think Joswick is just about clinging on to that position and only lost one. You see, they're all being very consistent up till now. That was an unfortunate mistake for him. Just a little mistake and Sanchez was able to get through. Very good racing there. Okay, let's drop back to Norton and Oberlarone, who are running very close together still. Again, both having very good races. Up from P20 and P22, I think, or P19 and P22, I think. And we've run into the chicane once more on lap 7. Let's have a look at the how the back marker's doing then. Have a look at Pichon. He's still on the back of Dalziel. Dalziel's again doing a good job of keeping Pichon behind him. Pichon started way up the field as well, so he must have a fair amount of damage, struggling to get past Dalziel. Is he going to have a look on this turn 1? Nah, he's too far away. Behind them then is Angel, who's I think he started probably around the position he's in now, so he's trying to keep it consistent. Looks like he's got a bit of damage. Might have had a spin or accident earlier in the race. Second and a half behind him then is Whalley, trying to recover from that crash with Viola. He's actually down in 21st now, so he's clearly quite a bit of damage there. It's cost him quite a lot of places. Let's have a look at Speaking Lish then. He's within a second of Ridge, trying to chase him down. Okay. Right, and then we'll go back up to the front runners. Barros. Ooh, Barros has made it into the lead. I've missed that. Let's see if I can find when that happened. Okay, so in lap 7 then they were running first and second still, and then I think they're coming up on the back marker. Durand, he had quite a big crash on turn 1, and Morris goes wide and just lets Barros through. That's very unfortunate for Morris, and again it was like the guys it's like Sanchez and Joswick. They make one mistake and the other car is allowed to come through. So Barros then into P1 then, after running in P2 for 7 laps, almost 8 laps of this race. Behind him then in P2 is Morris. Long still running in P3, having a very consistent race. Not been able to catch up with the front two. McElliott also having a very consistent race in P4. Followed then by Sanchez, who done pretty well to get himself into P5, followed by Joswick, Hale, Villadesen and Dewings. All of those guys have been running in those positions for quite some time now. Behind them then is Attrell, who's been trying to chase up that pack. I think he's made a little bit of time there. And then almost 10 seconds behind them is Mew, who seems to be pretty much riding by himself, having a very lonely race, but consistent. Norton then in P12, followed very closely by Obler-Rayon. Those guys have been following them, been in those positions for a couple of laps now. Be interesting to see if any one of them Obler-Rayon can make a move on Norton at some point, get himself into that P12 position. Behind them is Stevens, who again has been running in that position for quite some time, and Dalziel with keeping Pichon behind him. Still just within a second of each other, battling hard to keep each other in that position. Let's run on board with these two for a little bit. Pichon not managing to keep behind Dalziel all the time, struggling with that damage, I think. Let's go back up to the front runners. As Barros starts to make a bit of a gap between himself and Morris, up to almost a second now. And let's drop down to Durand. He's had a bit of a struggle of a race for Durand there. And behind him, Hillier is pitted at some point. Okay, he must have had a bit of a hard race for him. Looks like he might be 4 laps. Looks like he might be deciding that he doesn't want to finish. Long then in P3, coming up to the back marker of Durand, who's actually managed to keep up with P2 Morris for a fair amount of time. In front of him then is Viola in P21, looking to make a move at Speaking Leash at some point. He's also had a bit of a tough race from I think somewhere like I want to say P15 or something at the beginning of the race, all the way down to P21. So not had the best race for him. Not him speaking leash. He's had an alright race. You know, he was in P23, so he's made up 3 positions. So can't complain. Can't complain. Oh, Viola hitting the grass there, trying to get around speaking leash. Oh, he's looking for an opportunity to pass him if he can. Might go into one of the next corners, possibly the chicane. Let's run on board for them with the rest of the lap then. Speaking leash. Oh, it goes deep into that corner. It's a common problem with that corner, going too deep. You have to brake kind of more than you expected. Viola hasn't capitalised on it though. He's still behind him. I think he's made up a little bit of time. And looks like Viola's going to think about getting him under the braking into the chicane. Not quite close enough. Speaking leash puts on the brakes early and manages to keep his position. Let's see how they do into the final corner of lap 9. Staying behind him is Viola going to make a move, perhaps into turn 1 or on the straight. Staying close behind him. Yep, he goes on the inside, I think. He might, yeah. I think he's just about pulled ahead of speaking leash. And he's got that inside line. Looks like very close for a second there. That inside line on turn 1, you're pretty much settled. And Viola's up into P20. In front of him then, he's got Ridge, who is 10 seconds behind. Oh, Whalley's just made a move on Engel. Let's have a look at that then. Oh, I missed it again. Oh, so Engel's come through P3. Oh, and he's, yeah, just about lost the rear end. Rear end? He's hit the grass and then oversteered into the other side of the track. And yeah, maybe too much of a correction happened there, or he just lost control because of the grass and allowed Whalley just to sail past him. So that'll give Whalley an ability to catch up with Pichon and D.G.S.R. D.G.S.R now reasonably close with Norton, but he's still got Pichon right behind him. He's desperately trying to get past him. You know, it's cost him. Obviously, he had that crash at the beginning, which cost him a big chunk of the race, but he's not been able to get past D.G.S.R, which means he hasn't been able to catch up with any of the field. Norton then, a little way in front of them. Hang on a minute, no, Norton's back where Engel is. What happened there? Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at what's happened there. Ooh, I don't think the camera's quite picked it up. Is this Whalley going past Norton with D.G.S.R on the inside? Oh! D.G.S.R's just knocked Norton wide and sailing past. That's unfortunate for Norton. So he's lost a couple of places there, and then being a bit shook up. Whalley's managed to get around him, and then I think Engel gets around him as well. Possibly got a little bit of damage here. Engel getting up close behind him. Don't think he quite makes the move. So Obile Rayon then is come from P20, 22 up to P13. I'll be very happy with that result. He's had a very good race, kept it very clean and very consistent. And you know, he's managed to get past Norton, which they were racing together for quite some time. Ahead of him then, we've got Stevens racing his own race now. Quite a big gap between himself and Mew. Mew also quite a big gap to Dewings. Also has quite a big back to Atrial. And Atrial's running up the back of Villadesen. Sorry if I butchered that name. And Hale actually, all three of them quite close together, and even Hale's not far away from Zoswick. So this pack, they've managed to keep together for most of this race, really consistent. And Sanchez is only a second off McElliott. It looks like he's been making up some time there. McElliott goes a little wide, hitting that bumper, and Sanchez trying to catch up. Long in P3 again. He's made up a little bit of time with the front two, but again, very consistent race and kept it clean and kept it in the front. Barros and Morris then, still within a second of each other. They've had a pretty good race. Trying to keep each other from winning. But Barros has managed to keep his lead after taking it from Morris in lap 7. Let's have a go back down to P5. Have a look at Sanchez. He's trying to catch up with McElliott. He's made up a 0.3 of a second since the last time we saw him. And so he's going to be within striking distance within a lap or two at his current rate. Joswick is being closely followed by Hale, Villadesen and Atral. All of them again still running in that pack, sort of keeping each other in those positions, and clearly got a very similar pace. I think at this point Hillier has definitely decided to drop out of this race, which is a shame. You always get a point if you finish. Durand still riding near the back, and now he's got P4. McElliott's coming up to lap him soon. Speaking Leash has got away from Durand, but still quite a big gap between him and Raiola, who we saw overtake a little while ago. Raiola's got within a couple of seconds of Ridge. Ridge now is again a couple of seconds behind Norton, who had that unfortunate spin out. In front of him we have Angel. Sorry again if I'm butchering your name. And we have Whalley, who's managed to catch up with Pichon and D.G.S.R, who've been battling for most of this race. Pichon's desperately trying to get around him. Now he's got Whalley for company as well. Be interesting to see what happens in the last couple of laps of this race. Oh, D.G.S.R goes wide there. Is Pichon going to make a move on turn 1 on the inside? Whalley has to think about it, but he isn't quite close enough, unfortunately. Pichon's thinking about going around the outside. Went very deep into that corner, almost lost it there. Cannot afford to lose it at this point. So we go back up to the front runners then. They're coming up to go through the chicane, coming up to the last lap of this race. And we move down the field. Morris still quite up close behind them. David Long still in P3, McElliott still P4, Sanchez. Ooh, Sanchez has lost a couple of places by the looks of it to Hale. Let's have a quick look at that. Ooh, was there a touch between himself and... Oh, I think he loses it. Yeah, spins out. I think that's the same place that Joswick lost in a couple of laps prior, and Joswick is able to take that position back right quickly. Oh, that was a bit of a touch there. What happened there? Let's have a quick look at that. So Joswick comes round, and I think Sanchez comes out a little too wide. Hale gets the opportunity to get past both of them. Villadesen's in the mix here as well. Sanchez, I think, is still in the lead at this point, but I think Hale takes him. So Hale now up into P6, managed to get through this crowd. Sanchez down into P7. Joswick, Villadesen, Atral all still close up behind him. Joswick takes a look at Sanchez through the chicane and he manages it. It's a very clean move there. Gives some good racing, but then he goes wide. But manages to hold the position. Villadesen now on the attack against Sanchez himself. Looks like he might make a move on the straight. Maybe turn 1. Exciting race going into the final lap. So we got Hale now in P. Done well to get back into P5. Joswick. Villadesen. Oh, hits the grass. That's going to cost him. Oh no, that's the end of the race. That's idiotic me, not realised that we're at the end of the race there. So we'll cut back to Barros. So this is Barros then coming across the line to take P1. in this race at Zandvoort. Him and Morris had a pretty good battle, but I mean, once he overtook Morris in lap 7, Morris didn't really have a choice. And there's the black and white flag. Barros led in P1, Morris P2, Long coming over the line in P3. McElliott, again a very, very solid race, coming across the line in P4. I think Duran there's a lap behind, coming across in P22. Hale then, P5 on that last lap. Joswick, P7. Villadesen, P8. Sanchez, P7, sorry. Villadesen, P8. Actual, P9. Dewings comes across in P2. Mew in P10, sorry, not P2. Mew in P11. Stevens in P12. Obilarion, P13. He's had a very good race from second to last row to P13. Very good race. Dalziel, Pichon, Whalley, right battle right to the last line. Oh, that's a photo finish, but I think Dalziel takes it in P14. Pichon 0.006 of a second. P6, P15. Whalley in P17. Engel in P17. Norton in P18. Viola P19. Ridge P20. Speaking Leash in P21, Durand in P22, and Hillier, unfortunately, DNF in P23. What an exciting race, especially that last lap with Hale, Joswick, Sanchez, Villadesen, Atchell. They were very close all the way through, and Hale just about managed to get in front of everyone in P5. Well, that's it from me for race 1. Thank you very much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in race 2.